Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Baba Girivardhari Jaya Gopijana Baba Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON BBT founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Pavakacharya Sata Sata Shishramadi Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Brahmsakho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasiri Gauda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Yamuna Maya Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. So we're reading from Bhagavad-Gita as it is, by His very divine grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We're in chapter 7. And it's knowledge of the Absolute. And this is the middle part of the Bhagavad-Gita, the first two chapters. 1 through 6 discussed various stages of yoga. It talks about the material energy and describes the soul, and goes into the whole stages, different stages of the yoga practice and its connection on, to bhakti-yoga. But the highest, of course, is bhakti-yoga. So they put the gem, the jewel of the Bhagavad-Gita. It's all wonderful. but they put that in the middle, and that's chapter 7 through 12. So I will read. I think it was supposed to do. It's 18. I think Maharaj, Giriraj Maharaj did 17 last night, and I'm to do 18. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Udārāḥ sarva evaite. Jñānī ātmaiva me matam. Āsthitaḥ yukta-ātmā. Yuktātmā gatim. Udārāḥ sarva evaite. Jñānī ātmaiva me matam. Āsthitaḥ yukta-ātmā. Evānuttamāṁ gatim. Udārāḥ sarva evaite. Jñānī ātmaiva me matam. Āsthitaḥ yukta-ātmā. Evānuttamāṁ gatim. Devotees. Evaite.
ātmaiva me matam. āsthitaḥ yukta-ātmā. evānuttamāṁ gatim.
Vaishnavis. Anyone else? Okay, word for word. Udārāḥ, magnanimous. Sarve, all. Eva, certainly. Evaite, these. Jñānī, one who is in knowledge. Two, but. ātmaiva, just like myself. Me, my. Matam, opinion. Āsthitaḥ, situated. Saha, he. He, certainly. Yukta-ātmā, engaged in devotional service. Mam, in me. Eva, certainly. Anuttamām, the highest. Gatim, destination. Translation and purports by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but he was situated in knowledge of me and considered to be just like my own self. Being engaged in my transcendental service, he is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. Please repeat. All these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls. But he who is situated in knowledge of me, I consider to be just like my own self. Be engaged in my transcendental service. He is sure to attain me, the highest and most perfect goal. Purport. It is not that devotees who are less complete in knowledge are not dear to the Lord. The Lord says that all are magnanimous, because anyone who comes to the Lord for any purpose is called a mahātmā, or great soul. The devotees who want some benefit out of devotional service are accepted by the Lord because there is an exchange of affection. Out of affection, they ask the Lord for some material benefit. And when they get it, they become so satisfied that they also advance in devotional service. But the devotee in full knowledge is considered to be very dear to the Lord because his only purpose is to serve the Supreme Lord with love and devotion. Such a devotee cannot live a second without contacting or serving the Supreme Lord. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is very fond of his devotee and cannot be separated from him. Om Gana Tamarandasha, Gana Gana Salakaya, Takswami Tamina, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam, Stapitami Bhutale, Swarupa Karamayam, Tadati Swaha Padantikam, Vandiham, Shri Guru, Shri Yukta-ātmā, Shri Gurum Vaisnavam Scha, Shri Rupam Sagrajatam, Sahagana Raghunattam Vitam Stam Sajivam, Sabadvaitam, Sabadutam, Parijana, Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam, Shri Radha Krishna Padan, Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha, Hey Krishna, Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bandhu Jagapate, Gopesha, Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta, Namostute, Tapta Kanchana Gourangi, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vishabhanu Sutta Devi, Pranamami, Hari Priye, Vanchakalpistarubhischa, Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha, Shri Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasari Gauda Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, I'll just do a little bit of talk about just briefly what each chapter is about. And then when we get to the one we're working on today that we're supposed to be talking about, then we'll go into more depth. But in text 1 through 3, it's about the glory of having knowledge about the Lord. And Krishna is telling Arjuna that he wants him to hear about me, So when you're hearing, we know, that that's one of the main tenets of our process is to hear and chant. It's Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasya, Sakyam, Atma, Nivedanam. But hearing is very important, and it's stressed a lot to hear. So in chapters 1 through 3, as I was saying, hearing reveals a phenomenal and numinous knowledge, jñān and vijñān. There's jñān, which is having knowledge, but vijñān meaning realized knowledge. You realize the knowledge, you have knowledge. Okay, you have realization of the knowledge. But it is said that realized knowledge is very rare. And also in the next text, in text 19, Prabhupada says here that one who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is, but such a great soul is very, very rare. Then in chapters 4 through 12, discusses Prabhupada and Krishna in this section, 4 through 12, gives knowledge of the Lord's, Krishna's energies. And then coming to this section that we're on, section 13 through 19, is covering surrendering to Krishna. And I listened to Maharaj's class last night, and he described and talked about the different persons who come to him. And can someone tell me, if they were here at the class last night, can they tell me the 4 types of people who come to Krishna, who come to this knowledge, who come to this process?
Karti, Jigyasu and Jñānī. These are the 4 persons who come to perform the devotional service to God. These are the 5 persons.
Do we have a mic for you so we can hear you? I can't hear you.
Four kinds of persons are Karti, Jigyasu, and Jñānī.
Yes. Okay, so...
That is in distress.
Yes, please. I mean, because...
money seekers, those who seek money.
Yes.
Jigyasu, who wants knowledge. And Jñānī, who are in search of knowledge.
Yes. And some examples we can give of each one is like, for instance, Gajendra, who was in distress, calling on the Lord. Because if we, remember that he was, his leg was being held in the mouth of the crocodile.
Gajendra.
Yes.
He was in distress actually.
Yes.
Last time he was devotee of the Lord Krishna,
Yes, he used to be. He was into Yamuna in his past life. Yes.
He remembered that Lord actually, He remembered the Lord actually. Why? The crocodile was just actually catching his body actually, So it was that.
Yes, so he was calling on the Lord. Because I think he had been in the water fighting with the crocodile for almost 1,000 years. And finally he surrendered and he held up a lotus to the Lord when he saw him coming on his Garuda.
Another example is of that actually Dhruv Maharaj.
Yes.
Seeker of property.
He was the seeker of wealth. He wanted the kingdom is better. Lord Brahma's. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So that was actually fulfilled by the Lord actually when he was bent for this performing penances in the forest actually.
And then he said, when he finally saw the Lord had to tap him on the head with the conch shell because he was so in awe of the Lord being there, he couldn't speak. So the Lord touched his head with the conch shell, and he could finally offer prayers. And he said, I was searching after pieces of glass after seeing the Lord. And then he didn't want the kingdom, but the Lord gave it to him anyway. And now it's the jewel pole star. So he has the kingdom, and he's supposed to be there for 36,000 years, I think. Yes. And then the inquisitive, who's the one we could... I'm sorry?
Arjuna, that's why Lord spoke the Bhagavad-Gita actually. He was inquisitive of the knowledge actually. That's why the Lord actually spoken this Bhagavad-Gita.
Yes, Krishna finally, Arjuna finally surrendered to the Lord and took him as his spiritual master and not his friend because he wanted to hear from him. Actually, we know Arjuna cannot be contaminated at all, but this is for all of us in the material world who needed to hear the Bhagavad-Gita. And that line, the succession, had to be started again. So because Arjuna was Krishna's dearmost friend, which Krishna says in the Bhagavad-Gita, this is why I'm revealing it to you, because you're my very dear friend and you are not envious of me. Okay? And then the jñānī. Do you know anyone know? The four Kumars. Who? The four Kumars. That's what right, the four Kumars. Okay. Yes, you're right, Sukadeva Goswami. I heard him. He said Sukadeva Goswami. Yes. Did you want to speak more about Sukadeva Goswami? No? But yes, it's Sukadeva Goswami. But he's saying that the one who is most dear to him is the jñānī. And it's not, and the question comes up in this, when he says that the jñānī is very dear to me, it doesn't mean that he's neglecting any other of the other three, the ones who come to him. But it's because the jñānī doesn't want any material benedictions. So, but the other three are looking for some reward, some benefit by doing devotional service. That's why he says he says, all these devotees are undoubtedly magnanimous souls, but one who is situated in knowledge of me, he considers to be just like myself. But then, I want to read, there is something I wanted to read. It comes at the end of chapter 6. Oh, the last chapter. It's saying, it's the last paragraph that I'm reading. It is by great fortune that one comes to Krishna consciousness on the path of bhakti-yoga, to become well situated according to the Vedic direction. The ideal yogi concentrates his attention on Krishna, who is called Shyamasundara, who is as beautifully colored as a cloud, whose lotus-like face is as effulgent as the sun, whose dress is brilliant with jewels, and whose body is flower garlanded. Illuminating all sides is his gorgeous luster, which is called the Brahma-jyoti. He incarnates in different forms such as Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, and Krishna, the Supreme Person of Godhead, and he descends like a human being as the son of Mother Yashoda, and he is known as Krishna, Govinda, and Vasudeva. He is a perfect child, husband, friend, and master, and he is full with all evidences and transcendental qualities. If one remains fully conscious of these features of the Lord, he is called the highest yogi. This stage of highest perfection in yoga can be attained only by bhakti-yoga, as confirmed in all Vedic literature. Yasha Devi Parabhaktir Yata Devi Tata Garau Tashaite Katita Yadaha Prakasante Mahatmanaha. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. And so when we're hearing, we like to hear about the Lord, to hear descriptions of the Lord. Actually, I was thinking, if we don't hear about the Lord, or if we don't hear about the spiritual world, how are we going to want to leave our bodies? We're going to stay attached to the material world and think this is okay, and still think we're getting some benefits, material benefits from being in this, material world. So we have to constantly hear. We have to hear every day. We have to hear about the spiritual world. We have to hear the descriptions of Krishna, his features and his activities, his form. So we have to keep hearing, so that when we're ready to leave this body, we can remember at least to say his name, to call his name. So, the devotees who want some benefit out of devotional service are accepted by the Lord because there's an exchange of affection. So the Lord is calling them great souls, the mahātmās. And I forget which Srimad Bhagavatam it's in, which canto, but it's akama sarva kamova moksha karma udārāḥ tivrena bhakti-yoga yajata samparam. Everyone, whether a karma, a devotee, sarva karma, a karmi, or moksha karmi, a jñānī or a yogi, he's encouraged to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead by the direct method of devotional service. In this way, one can get material and spiritual profit, both simultaneously. You get everything. And with jñānī, because he's attached to it, he can be attached to knowledge, then it may take him a long time to get to understanding that Krishna is a person. Because first he goes through the stages of Brahmajyoti, then Paramatma, and then the realization that Krishna is a person and has a form, and he's the Supreme Person of Godhead. Prabhupada gives the example of, like, okay, when you're driving down the road, I don't know how many of you drive, but you may see a mountain, but it's kind of blurry, you don't see any details, you just see in the distance, and it's just a little blurred. Then when you get closer, you start noticing, oh, this mountain actually is made of trees. Because when you're distant, it just looks like a massive form. But when you get closer, you start seeing individual trees in that mountain. But if you hike through that mountain, then you see all the details, of the mountain itself. So these are the stages that jñānī may go through. But he says the devotee in full knowledge of me is considered to be very dear. And actually, I've been reading Srila Prabhupada's Leela-mrita, and this is about the second or third time I've read it. But I think at the end here it says, such a devotee cannot live a second without contacting or serving the Supreme Lord. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is very fond of the devotee and cannot be separated from him. So when I don't know, how many of you here have read the Prabhupada's Leela-mrita? 1, 2. It's very, very important to read. I think that I don't know for sure, but is it in Hindi as well? Does anyone know? No? Yes, it is. It's a beautiful, beautiful rendition of Srila Prabhupada's life and his qualities. His qualities, you get more and more attached to Srila Prabhupada and understand what gift he has given all of us by reading, the struggles he went through, his compassion, his ability to be friends with everyone, even when there's appears like there's some hostility, you know, that maybe the other person is hostile to Srila Prabhupada and whatever he's doing. But when you read his life and his preaching and how much he sacrificed himself, not always being compassionate, always only thinking about how can I bring these living entities to Krishna? I mean, and always totally focused on the mission and trying to carry out the mission of his spiritual master and Krishna. So this is an example. He's a pure devotee, and pure devotee has certain qualities that Prabhupada exhibited in his dealings with the devotees, and his dealings with the general public, and his ability to be equiposed and never getting deviated from his purpose. For me, it would be something I would find discouraging sometimes, all the things that happen to him, and his coming at 70 years old to the U.S. to try to give this gift to militias and people who didn't want it. They were thinking they were happy and pleased with what they were doing, you know, to actually try to penetrate their consciousness, and how he lovingly pushed his disciples and criticized them at times out of love, and showed so much love that they became very dedicated, and the things that they accomplished because of that love, for me, is unfathomable. When I see the temple, the work on the temple, we know how hard it is to get something done here. But to actually have accomplished it because they received that bhakti, that seed from Srila Prabhupada, and they saw how he was so tolerant, so patient, and as they matured in their Krishna consciousness, they understood how compassionate he had been with them, how he had been so tolerant, and their love for him grew, and that love expressed itself in what they're still doing now, the ones who are still here. And I always say that we should all take advantage of those devotees who, you know, were serving Srila Prabhupada, whether closely or at a distance, because they have so much to share, and a lot of them are leaving the planet right now. So we should take advantage of their association, and they're still pushing on. Look at Gopal Krishna Maharaj, look at Jayapataka Maharaj. As we see, they're pure devotees, so we can see that they know that they're not the body. They just know, I'm not the body. I'm a servant of the Lord. And Prabhupada was preaching as he was laying on his bed, leaving the body. And we can see other examples of devotees who have left the body and left so gloriously. So the qualities, you know, that Prabhupada exhibited, like, you know, the ones that are listed in the scriptures about being tolerant and merciful and friendly towards all living entities. And not only that, but Prabhupada was very astute. He understood every situation and how to deal with it, but always focused on Krishna. No, always focused on Krishna, no matter what the situation was. He was always peaceful. He always performed his program, no matter where he was. He wasn't jet lagged. At that age, whatever trip he made, no matter how far it was, he maintained the same schedule. He maintained the same schedule and was not affected. And all of his characteristics are very sublime, very sublime. So when a jñānī gets the mercy of a pure devotee, then he makes spiritual advancement. Because that pure devotee can impart that knowledge to the jñānī, the path of devotional service. And Prabhupada exhibited all the characteristics needed to show that I'm going to do the necessary, but depend on Krishna. I was just reading, the last part I was reading was his fight with Mr. Nara in the Juhu, for the Juhu land. And his disciples didn't understand why Prabhupada was attached to that land, because they didn't have the vision that Prabhupada had to see that this land that just looked vacant and empty and had mosquitoes and rats and this and that, they couldn't see what Prabhupada could see, you know. But whatever steps were taken, Prabhupada encouraged his devotees along the way how to fight the fight with Mr. Nair and the land for Krishna, because he had told the deities, you stay here and I'll build you a temple. You know? So once he made that promise to the deities, for him it was a done deed. You know. So any of us who have the opportunity to serve, you know, such pure devotees, we're very, very fortunate to be able to serve them, render any kind of service to his disciples. We're very fortunate to offer any service. And then we ourselves will get, you know, benefit from associating with them and also make spiritual advancement. Because this is why we are practicing, but we need the association of the pure devotees, of the higher devotees. I know I need it. So, you know, we should all try to learn from them. And those who haven't read the Lilamrita about Srila Prabhupada and his bringing Krishna consciousness, he could have stayed right here in Vrindavan because he was at the Radha Damodar temple. But his only thought was how to bring the living entities back to the lotus feet of the Lord. And so that's why here it said that the Lord, such a devotee cannot live a second without contacting or serving the Supreme Lord. And we see that. We have a lot of examples of that. They cannot not do it, you know. And then similarly it says that the Lord is very fond of his devotee and cannot be separated from him. So we should all try to chant our rounds offenselessly and make progress in devotional service and Krishna consciousness. So I'll end here and I'll open for corrections or questions or additions or something I missed. Does anything, no one has anything to add? Any realizations? about your own devotional life, your own progress in devotional life. No. Hare Krishna.
When we study that, the pure devotee doesn't want it. Hare Krishna, we always hear that the pure devotees are always wanting to engage themselves in the service of the Lord. They don't want liberation. But at the same time, Srila Prabhupada said, chant Hare Krishna and go back to Godhead. So that contradicts, like either you can be a pure devotee or you can go back to Godhead. Is that two situations?
From my understanding, the pure devotee, his only objective is to serve the Lord. And I've heard Prabhupada say, whether I go to heaven or hell, it doesn't matter. I just want to serve the Lord. So it doesn't matter to him where he goes, whether he goes back home to Godhead or... because he's already liberated. He's already liberated. He's not of the material world. He doesn't have a material mentality. He's not affected by the material energy. He's already liberated. So for him, wherever he goes, his only concern is, how can I serve the Lord wherever he sends me? And you know that coming to the West was hellish. He suffered so much on the boat, but yet Krishna came and told him, I'm here. I'm here. I'll be here for you. Even if he had heart attacks on the boat. He had the heart attacks on the boat. So they're already sold out to the Lord. There's no question of, all he wants is to please the Lord and please his spiritual master. And the results are up to the Lord. But it's saying here that devotee is very, very dear to me. That pure devotee is dear. And we can all we're getting purified. That's why we're chanting. We want that purification. Is it on? It does not. Is it? Did you turn it on or is it off? Yes.
Like Srila Prabhupada isn't the pure, he's not like us, or at least like me. I'm in that pure one. So I'm talking about people like me who will never reach that level. So for us, aspiring to at least go back to Godhead is the only goal. We cannot, pure devotees can serve anywhere. And they just come to liberate people like us, but just desiring, so that's also a desire, going back to Golo, or going back to Vaikuntha, so that's also a desire, but is that desire right?
From what I remember reading, Prabhupada said that we should try to finish this life, finish this birth and death in this life, that it can be done. He said you can be Krishna conscious in a second. And it's the reason that they're examples for us. We can't imitate them, but we can follow them. And just like they follow their spiritual master, we follow our spiritual master. Then we can understand, if we're chanting offensively, we can go back home to Godhead. Some devotees desire, to be with their spiritual master, which that is okay as well. I heard one class discussing that, But we should seriously be introspective and see what is holding us back. What about our chanting? How is our chanting? Are we attentive to the chanting? Are we really desiring to become pure devotees? Prabhupada said all his disciples were pure devotees. And we know, that some of them had difficulties. But we're still very dear to Krishna. I always use the example that when I'm talking with, some of my close friends, devotees, is that if Putana can attain her position, and she was trying to kill Krishna, then I'm not trying to kill him, I'm trying to love him. Maybe I don't have it yet, but I'm trying. Krishna sees all of that. Krishna is kind. He's saying throughout the Gita how his living entities are very dear to him. And what to speak of those who are trying to love him. So we shouldn't be discouraged. We should just keep chanting no matter what the difficulties that come. And know that Krishna is pleased with us, that we're trying. And he only sees the good. My understanding is Krishna only sees the good. If he can see the good in Putana, he can certainly see the good in... And Lord Nityananda saved Jagai and Madai. I feel like I'm one of the Jagai and Madais, but came to save me. I feel there's hope. I always feel hopeful that I just keep trying to chant. If I don't chant nicely one day and I wake up in the morning, I think, okay, Krishna gave me another day to try to do better. And we can get encouragement from reading. Reading is very important because Srimad Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's purports are very profound. And when we find ourselves in difficult situations, we need to open the Srimad Bhagavatam, pray before we open to discuss the problem with Krishna, because Krishna is hearing you, and you'll find the answer. I don't know if I answered your question. Okay. Anyone else? Am I over time? I can't see the time. Is it time? So? Okay. I thank all the devotees for their kind attention. And please forgive any mistakes or, anything I need to do better, please let me know. Thank you. Vanta kapis rubias cha kripa sindhu evaite patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavyo namo namaha.